Continuing the best item series for Diablo 2, we have probably the most competitive slot in the game, helmets. This is because, frankly, there's literally dozens of good to even great helmet options in the game, especially if you take into account their uses on mercenaries or even lower level characters. So to keep this manageable, we're going to focus in on the top of the top tiers and a number of the truly distinct special use case helmets. So starting out, we're going to give some mercenary love in the beginning and get it out of the way, with the most popular mercenary helmets starting with the favorite of most YouTubers, and that is Andariel's Visage, with plus skills, attack speed, life leech, and solid strength. This helmet keeps your mercenary alive with that leech, it improves their damage output significantly with the strength and the attack speed, and it lets them equip items outside their normal reach with the strength. And on top of that, it can actually be a really solid player helmet as well for much the same reasons. The big drawback of this helmet is that it has minus fire resistance to kind of fit the theme of Andariel, but you can offset that with a fire resist jewel, a Ral rune, or if you're going fancy, an rune. Though for those of you that watch my build videos, you'll know I often favor our next helmet, Vampire's Gaze, a bit for nostalgia, but also because it's just a really reliable helmet, and it does a bit better for mercenary endurance in a lot of the situations I find myself in, mostly thanks to the % damage reduction, and combine that with leech and a couple other nice mods and it's fairly good. The rune or jewel I slap into this depends on what armor I want to pair it with though, with resist being kind of like the safe pick in the form of like an or a resist jewel. Obviously, honorable mentions like Talrash's could go here as well, thanks to the good leech and resist, or even Rockstopper for damage reduction and resist, but if we go down that road, we'll just end up with a 90 item helmet list, which would kind of defeat the purpose of making this succinct. That said, moving on to our elemental helmets, we have some fun ones, starting with Nightwing's Veil, with plus all skills, cold damage boost, and dexterity, and actually reasonable requirements. This hard to find helmet is great on a number of builds, from Blizzard Sorceresses to Ice Maiden Amazons, often paired with a cold facet to further bump the cold theme along. It can do a lot of work on your cold themed builds, and being a +2 helmet does give it some decent positioning on a number of these. After that, we have one of the best caster helmets in the game with Griffin's Eye, the lightning themed helmet that also packs a serious nice amount of faster cast. It may have only 1+ skill, but on the lightning builds with minus resist, it will often amplify your already high damage output significantly by piercing any already broken resists even further. It's easily best in slot for a lot of builds, barring some of the extremely rare GG circlets. Last of the elements is the fire helmet, which we're showing Raven lore here thanks to the upcoming changes to fire druids in 2.4, but this can also be carried over to the new runeword Flickering Flame to a lesser extent. With Fire Pierce plus elemental skills and resist, Raven lore is a ton of fun for an otherwise neglected build, and Flickering Flame, while weaker, does decent work for other fire-themed characters. On to the farming helmets, we start with the most obvious, Harlequin Crest, +2 skills, +2 all attributes, damage reduction by %, and magic find, not to mention scaling life and mana. It's just a consistent and reliable helmet for those characters that use skill-based damage and want to improve their chances of finding new uniques, rares, and sets for their collection, and it also just has other nice mods on it. Though for more martial characters that are less skill-based, there's the often ignored Steel Skull. While overall a bit weaker than Harlequin Crest, the access to increased attack speed, hit recovery, and dual leech, along with magic find, can make this a really good pick for players who prefer farming with less spell-based characters. Generally, this helmet does get less love because martial classes are usually slower than casters at farming, but it is an important option to keep in mind. Finally, Crown of Thieves with life leech, dexterity, fire resist, and gold find. It's almost expressly built for farming the Travancore for gold, and in turn, charms, jewels, and runes are pretty easy finds there as well. Often only used as a mid-tier mercenary helmet on par with Talrash's by most people, it does have a nice role for more gold find in a relatively cheap to use and easy to find item. Probably the biggest honorable mention for farming would actually be Tarn Helm, the lower level magic find helmet, that alongside Gold Dagger are great starter gear for finding low level items, but they just don't quite cut it into the best of the best item lists. On to the more martial helmets, we start with what probably a few people have gotten mad about not being mentioned in the mercenary helmets, and that's Guillaume's Face, the faster hit recovery, crushing blow, deadly strike, and strength based set helmet. Only thing it's missing is honestly leech, and it's frankly both a great player helmet for builds like Zealots and Frenzy Barbs, as well as a powerful tool for both Act 2 and Act 5 mercenaries. I generally keep every one I find and have put all manner of runes and jewels in them simply because they're useful on so many characters and in so many builds. After that, we have the more bow-friendly helmet, Giant Skull, again packing Crushing Blow and Strength, but this time with knockback and 2 sockets. Probably one of my favorite Boazon helmets in the game for PvM, because it offers such great flexibility, especially with those 2 sockets. While it doesn't stack a lot of features, it is just a naturally nice helmet, and even if you're not an Amazon player, it's also a great tool for your rogue mercenaries. The other unique 2-socket wonder is Crown of Ages, another fun beast to have, with plus all skills, sockets, faster hit recovery, resist, damage reduction. It's probably the best all-rounder of helmets in the game, even though it's not really the best for any individual one of those features on the list, with things like Kira's destroying it on resist rolls, for example, but it lacks other nice mods that this one has. That said, this is a hard-to-find helmet, but it's hard to deny just how strong it is after you've customized the sockets with your more specialist jewels. Obviously, we also have the strong class-specific helmets, with Jalal's Mane bringing some strong boosts to shape-shifting oriented druids with strength, resist, plus skills, attack rating, hit recovery, even a pinch of mana per kill, and Ariat's Face doing much the same for barbarian combat skills, but packing dexterity, life leech, instead of energy and mana per kill. These can both be beaten out by other helmets on this list for specific use cases, but are both really good reliable choices if you're unsure about what helmet to use on your build for a druid or a barbarian respectively. Now you may wonder why Darkseid Helm is here, and it's mostly to remind me to talk about Wisdom, with the new 2.4 rune word that provides Cannot Be Frozen, piercing attack, and mana per kill, not to mention Mana Leech, which unfortunately pops and destroys itself whenever I bring it into a game due to some issues with transferring it with Go Mule right now. But it will be available on ladder when it releases, and it is another alternative source of the Cannot Be Frozen trait on several characters, not to mention a nice tool for rogue mercenaries, or possibly niche pierce builds that could combine it with Razor Tail for a reasonable % pierce chance. Sticking with rune words, I honestly could bring up a few of them, but the 2 that stand out the most for me are Dream, which is the cornerstone of the Tesladin build with its Holy Shock aura, but it also provides a number of really overlooked bonuses, ranging from chance to cast Confuse to reduce incoming damage by making enemies fight each other. It has a 5% boost to life on helmets, as well as global resist, faster hit recovery, and magic find. It's pretty handy for a number of builds, even if the Holy Shock is really only punchy for the 2 major Tesla classes. The other one is Delirium, a helmet with a side effect of turning you into a Stygian doll 1% of the time that you're hit, but is one of the easiest ways to get a +5 Druid pelt, in this example a 5 NATO helmet. It also packs Confuse, but this time on striking, Magic Find, a few other handy mods to make it good in a number of situations at least. And it's also a rather solid Boazon helmet with skills like Strafe, pretty much guaranteeing everything stays confused, which will reduce your incoming hits a ton. At the tail end of the helmet list, we have the elephant in the room, rares. And while rare druid pelts can be pretty solid, and even best in slot in some cases, the rarer helmets that really shine are circlets, since they can get so many insanely good mods, ranging from run walk to enhanced damage by %, up to 20% faster cast rate, not to mention plus skills, stats, leech, and resist, among a plethora of other things. Oh, and don't forget, as rares, they can also spawn with 2 sockets through a prefix. So it's easy to see how they're able to become best in slot, provided you can find the rare combination that gives you as much as you want, which is a little uncommon due to the sheer number of possible affixes on circlets being just, it's insane the number you can get. And it is also worth noting that magic circlets can also have a place in this for min-maxing, thanks to being able to get +3 to a specific tree on them, and when paired with a good suffix, a lot of luck from Larzak as well, you can actually get a strong 2-socket magic circlet for very specific builds. I personally don't have any here. I don't collect them, because since this is single player, I often build for PvM, which has less use for these min-max specialist types of items. Now, as far as the honorable mention list, it could be a mile long, with stuffs like Biggin's Bonnet, several sets like Saigon's, and as we mentioned, a plethora of solid mercenary helmets from Tal Rasha's to even Bloodcrafts. So what would your personal honorable mention be? What's your favorite helmet that no one seems to acknowledge? Mention it down below, and this is one item slot that I might actually make a viewer's favorite follow-up for, since even my list of honorable mentions would be doubling the length of this already long video. And as always, a special thanks to the patrons and channel members who have helped keep the lights on, and the viewers like you that watch to the end, and as always, keep gaming, have fun, and peace out. This has been Alzorath. Bye.